3 weeks. That's how long the relief lasted. You prayed for it for a year. You got it. And for about 3 weeks, it felt exactly like you thought it would. And then, somehow, it didn't. You still check the thing that used to feel like everything. The job offers sitting in your inbox. The ring on your hand. The number in your account. You look at it and you feel normal. Not grateful, normal. Just normal. The way you felt before any of it happened. And here's the part that actually scares you a little. It's not your dua that stopped working. Here's what's actually going on. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. The brain's tendency to return to its baseline mood after almost any positive change, no matter how big. There's a well-known finding from happiness research. People who win the lottery and people who lose the use of their legs both return to roughly the same level of day-to-day happiness they had before, within about a year. Not because the events didn't matter. Because the brain isn't built to stay activated by any one thing forever. Your brain has a system for this. Dopamine doesn't spike because you have something. It spikes in the gap between wanting and getting. The second the gap closes, the chemical response that made the wanting feel so intense starts to fade. Fast. That 3-week window isn't random. It's roughly how long it takes most people's dopamine response to a major life change to flatten back out. This is not a flaw. It's not you being ungrateful. It's the same mechanism that lets a person survive genuinely difficult new circumstances without staying in permanent crisis. The brain adapts to good and bad, because staying at maximum emotional intensity forever isn't something a human nervous system can actually do. So when the job, the ring, the numbers stop feeling like everything, that's not your dua wearing off. That's baseline. That's biology doing exactly what it's designed to do. And this is where it gets interesting, because the Quran describes almost this exact pattern, centuries before anyone had a word for hedonic adaptation. Allah says in Surah Ibrahim, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you." Most people hear that as a reward system. Be thankful. Get more. But look at it psychologically for a second. Gratitude isn't a passive feeling that happens to you. It's a practice. A repeated deliberate act of noticing. And repeated deliberate noticing is literally the intervention psychologists use to counter hedonic adaptation. Gratitude journaling studies show the same thing. People who are prompted to actively notice good things, rather than just experience them, adapt to them more slowly. The noticing itself resets the clock. So, shukra, gratitude, isn't a moral bonus round on top of getting what you prayed for. It's the actual mechanism that interrupts the flattening your brain does automatically. Allah isn't describing an arbitrary transaction. He's describing, in one sentence, the exact psychological process that keeps a blessing from going numb. That also reframes what's happening to you right now. The flatness you feel isn't a sign you didn't deserve the answer, or that the answer wasn't real. It's a sign that the noticing, the shukr, stopped being active. Not because you're ungrateful as a person, because noticing takes ongoing effort. And your brain will always default back to baseline the moment that effort pauses. So here's the actual practice. Not be more grateful as a vague feeling, but something specific. Once a day for 30 seconds, name one specific detail about the thing you prayed for that you haven't noticed in a while. Not "I'm grateful for my job." Too broad, your brain skips right past it. Something specific. The exact moment your manager said yes. The sound of the ring box opening. The relief in your chest the day the number cleared. Specific details are harder for the brain to flatten out than general categories. That's why the memory stays vivid while the feeling fades. Say it out loud if you can, or write it down. This isn't about forcing an emotion you don't feel. It's about re-engaging the exact noticing mechanism the Quran points to on purpose, daily, so your brain has a reason to keep the blessing active instead of filing it away as background normal. This won't bring back the 3-week high. That high was never supposed to last. It was dopamine doing its job, not the size of the blessing. But this practice is what keeps the blessing from disappearing into the background completely. But there's a harder version of this problem, one this practice alone doesn't fully solve. Because for some people the flatness doesn't stay flat. It turns into wanting the next thing. A bigger job. A better version of what they already have. And that's a different question entirely. Not why happiness fades, but why the wanting never seems to stop.